Hello, everybody, and welcome to our C-DaRE Invites first hybrid event of online and in-person activity. So before we begin, and today we're joined by Mônica Dantas, so we're very happy to have Mônica sharing her research with us all. Just a couple of notes, a bit of context about the C-DaRE Invites series. So C-DaRE is the Centre for Dance Research at Coventry University, and C-DaRE Invites is a research dissemination programme or series curated by myself and Lily Hayward-Smith, who is in live in Coventry at the moment. So you'll hear from Lily in a second. C-DaRE Invites 3 years ago, before everything changed, was an in-person event. So we hosted our visitors and our own researchers from within C-DaRE in our building, in our spaces. And Lily and I have been working over the last 3 years or so to find a way to carry on connecting with external researchers and visitors to share their research in a virtual environment, which has been actually very successful. And we've tried to maintain our emphasis on hospitality and informality in our online events. So we encourage and invite people to bring their lunch, have their children and pets around it, not so much in the live space, but in the online area, to be as informal as they need to be. And this is based on mine and Lily's belief and conversations that when we are relaxed and comfortable, that conversations are easier and often more rich. So that's the context and a bit of history around C-DaRE Invites. Just a little bit of, so as I've said, this is our first hybrid event. So I think Lily and I would really appreciate a little bit of understanding or coming with us if this becomes messy or if it becomes there's any confusion. As I'm speaking, I'm also admitting people into the online space, and I'm sure Lily is managing stuff in person there. So it may be that Lily and I have to pause and communicate something to each other, and that's fine. And we would invite you to do the same. So as Mônica shares her research, please do pop any comments or questions into the chat if you're joining us online, and Lily will keep an eye on questions and comments from the live space. I will manage conversations online. And if there are any technical questions or any issues, please do send me a direct message in the chat, and I will attend to that. So Mônica, Lily's going to speak in a moment, then we'll hear from Sarah, the director of C-DaRE, and then Mônica will share her research, and we'll have some time for questions afterwards. But we're really glad to have you all with us. So if I didn't say it before, welcome everybody. Really happy that you're here, and really looking forward to hearing from Mônica. So I will hand over to Lily. Thanks, Lily.
Thanks, Kate. Just checking everyone can hear me in the room and online. So just to say, we are recording the event via Zoom, but feel free to have your cameras on and to be here in the room in live, which is great, throughout the presentation. But just stay muted, and you're not allowed to talk while you're sat there. No, that's joking. But there are biscuits on the table. Sorry for everyone online, but please help yourself and feel free to get up and move around if you need to. People kind of here with us, don't feel like you have to stay stuck to your chairs the whole time. Oh, lovely, it's really nice to see your faces popping up. Hello. So we're going to be sharing the screen in a minute because Mônica has a presentation to share, which we'll do. And there is, for the people online, we have the live transcriptors enabled. So if you want to turn on the closed captions, if you stand up and sort of wave a bit more, the camera will turn around. So yeah, we have a moving camera. It's because I'm talking.
I'll come here.
We have a a mobile camera which will sort of switch around as people move and talk in the space. So yeah, that might be a little bit clunky, just to let you know. So I'm going to invite Sarah Watley to come up and...
I'm not coming anywhere, am I?
Well, they can't see you if you sat there.
Oh, okay.
So if you come up here, and Sarah's going to do a little bit of an introduction to Mônica, and then we'll get started.
You don't need to see me, but just
oh no, you're not. Come here.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's such a huge pleasure to have Mônica here with us. It's not her first visit to us by any means. We have this wonderful ongoing relationship with the University of Brazil, and it's your third visit to us, I think, isn't it?
Third? No.
Third, fourth, fifth? I lost track, and it's just been such a wonderful. Every time Mônica comes, we have these great conversations. Of course, COVID has made these a little bit more difficult this time, which makes today even more special because we have Mônica here to share with us her wonderful research that she's been doing on digital dance archives in southern Brazil, and particularly the Eva Schul archive, and how exciting that Eva's with us today. So welcome, Mônica. Thank you for doing this for us, and we all look forward to hearing your talk.
Oh, thank you, thank you. It's okay. I'm here. Huh? Okay. So I'd like to thank Sarah Watley, Rosa Cisneros, Emma Mehan, Het Bates, Lily Smith, Kate Marsh, Karen Wood, Scott De La Hunta, Ruth Gibson, Victor Toms, and all C-DaRE people. I thought I just said these names because the people that have been collaborating in this last almost 8 years. So I thank the welcome and the exchanges in these last years. I believe that we have been building a very productive professional partnership, also built with affection. I would like to thank my colleagues from School of Physical Education, Physiotherapy and Dance for covering my work while I'm here. And I need to thank to the CAPES, Brazilian Ministry of Education, for the scholarship to develop my work as visiting researcher at C-DaRE Coventry University from December 2021 to February 2022. I highlight that this money is part of the institutional internationalization project of Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, launched in 2018, before the starting of Bolsonaro's government. I don't need to say, or maybe I need to say, that since 2019, the funds for education, academic and scientific research, public health, arts and culture have been drastically decreasing in Brazil. Since 2020, we have been regretting the deaths and the impoverishment caused by COVID pandemics and the instability of our governments. We have been fighting for less destruction and more actions regarding the environment and climate change without many practical results. And now a war is happening in Europe. I'm sorry for bringing that. I'm sure I don't need to remember you what is going on. But paradoxically, I feel so happy and so privileged that I've been dedicating my life to perform, teach and research dance, and that I have to consider and balance all these contexts. And also I need to say that I, as many of you, take my strength from the dance community, from the dance practices and from the dancing bodies. Today, I will not apologize for my English. As a native Portuguese speaker, it's necessary to deal with the limits of thinking in my own native language, Brazilian Portuguese, trying to speak and write in English. My English, inhabits a non-European body, a non-European mindset, and a non-European sensibility. And it is at least a peculiar English. I hope I could communicate well with you. I thought that spending these 3 months in London would improve my spoke in English, but I'm not sure, it's not easy, but okay. So let's start the presentation and I'm going to see. So this is the title of my presentation today. My objective today is to present the Eva Shu archive that now has also an English version. But before, I'd like to thank Lily for being here and helping me since the beginning, and also highlight the presence of Eva Shu here with us in Porto Alegre. So the next, please. So this is our archive, and now he has also, as I said, a version in English. The next, Lily, please. So my presentation is organized as follows in 3 times, and I hope it was not so long. Next. Just before starting, I'm going to talk a little bit about Eva Shu. In 2022, Eva Shu completed 74 years of age, and I hope she was not upset that I'm telling her age, and almost 60 years of dance life, from which stands out the pioneering in contemporary dance teaching in Brazil, the creation of more than 100 choreographies, the dissemination of dance practices based on improvisation and collective actions, the training of artists of national and international projection. The next, Lily. She was also a pioneer on the teaching of dance at university and worked in management as Arts Council of Rio Grande do Sul. In the 70s, she created the Mudança Group in Porto Alegre. In the 80s, she worked in Curitiba, capital of Paraná State, and directed an independent dance company. In the 90s, she returned to Porto Alegre and founded the Anima Dance Company. Since then, she has been developing several dance projects with her company. And my colleague, Sus Weber, when she has been here, she talked a lot about Eva and her work. So we're moving. The next, yes. My interest in dance archives increased after developing the project Giving Flash to the Memory, carried out in Porto Alegre from 2009 to 2011. The project made available a part of the contemporary dance repertoire created in southern Brazil through the recreation of 9 choreographies by Eva Shu, conceived from the 70s to the beginning of 2000, in order to celebrate the 20 years of the Anima Dance Company. The project Giving Flash to the Memory was organized in 3 axes, supported by the notion of poetic action, and resulted in 3 different productions. A show composed of 3 group choreographies with young dancers, a show composed of 5 solo choreographies and 1 duo, and the project documentation through videos, photos, written materials, and articles. The next. Oh, no.
No?
No. Yeah, before. Ah, yes, okay. Now the next. So we assumed with this project that dancing was the best way to celebrate dance and its story. Dancing to build memories of the dance. One of our inspirations was the sentence of Trisha Brown that says, "Creation in dance is the recreation of a liberated impulse. It is an act of giving flesh to the memory of the first act." Give flesh to the memory of the first act to try to recover in the movement something of the sense and purpose which it was created. So we decided to work with recreation of the choreographies instead of the idea of reconstruction, reproduction, or replication. By the embodiment of Eva Shu's poetics and the integration of bodily experiences coming from different temporalities, working with artists from different generations. Well, we also assumed a vision of the body as memory. We understand, following Merleau-Ponty, that through the flesh as an element and substance of the world, the relations of the body in the world and the body as memory are established. So the body-world relationship is aesthesiological, as it is immersed in feeling. There is the flesh of the body and the flesh of the world. In each of them, there is an interiority that spreads to the other in permanent reversibility. Body and world are fields of presence, where all the relationships of perceptual life and sensitive world emerge. This immersion in the thickness of the world does not prevent us from understanding that such a relationship is also historical and cultural. I quote Merleau-Ponty. The person who perceives is not spread out before himself as a consciousness must be. He has historical density. He takes up a perceptual tradition and is faced with a present. End of quotation. I would like to highlight that the project Giving Flesh to the Memory is contemporary to the article The Body as Archive, Will to Reenact and the Afterlives of Dances, published in 2010 by André Lepecki, and meets the statement of the Will to Archive, I quote, as to referring to a capacity to identify in a past work still not exhausted creative fields of impalpable possibilities. For us, it's important to emphasize that contemporaneity, because the artistic and academic production of what we call now Global South, or as I've been calling peripheral countries, has been having less visibility and impact on the dance studies. I will come back to this subject later. So the next now. Okay. So let's to the archive. So I present now the Eva Schuh archive that is, in Portuguese is named Carne Digital Arquivo Eva Schuh. That means Digital Flash, the Eva Schuh archive. It's a digital dance archive about the life and work of choreographer and teacher Eva Schuh, consisting of texts, documents, photographs, and videos provided at LUMI, the digital repository of Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. The videos are still hosted at the YouTube platform, but we will move them as soon as possible. The Eva Schuh archive was launched in August 2021, but it is still in progress. The archive also contains the idea of a library of digital movements that will be developed through the digitalization of movements from Eva Schuh technique using motion capture. The digital archive is organized in sections whose titles refers to Eva Schuh's choreographies, as you can see here in the corner of time, dedicated to her biography, How to Catch an Instant, to document the choreographies, and Metamorphosis, to document the teaching and creation process. It, as I said, it also presents the history of Anima Companhia de Dança, where it's written Anima, and the future library of digital movements. So the next one, please. Okay. In the current phase, there are 3 choreographies available, representing different moments in the choreographer's career. Um Berro Gaúcho from 1977, created to the Grupo Mudança, Catch ou Como Segurar Instante from 2002, and Aquados from 2016, both created with Anima Companhia de Dança. By the end of 2022, the documentation of 10 more choreographies is planned. We also believe that the digital library of movement will be developed in 2022. Next, please. So I would like to show now a little bit about our photos documentation process. Until this moment, 158 photos were documented. Please. Each photo was coded and analyzed, generating 13 metadata. This model was elaborated by PhD candidate Mônica Procopio. She's there. So the last. After each photo and its metadata were uploaded to Lume, the digital repository of Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, and linked to the photo at the archive. So for example, here we have the photo. So if you go to gallery, biography, you can find the photos from biography. So if you just click on that photo, please.
Which one's biography?
No, you cannot, just the next.
So
yeah.
There you go.
So it takes you to the Lume, the digital repository, and there you can have again the photo. So of course it's in Portuguese, but so it's available. You also, people also can go direct to the digital repository and try to find also the work there. So they are available in these two systems. Okay, next, Lily. So the development of the digital movement library is one of the great challenges of the project, as it assumes the use of sophisticated technologies that are still incipient in Brazil. We are working in partnership with the Biodynamics Laboratory of the School of Physical Education, Physiotherapy and Dance that has the motion capture system Vicon Optical Passive. Taking our reality as reference, the mentioned system there was only used for biomechanical analysis of a specific movement routines, and the equipment is located on a room with a forced platform and with reduced space to dance. And of course, all the pandemic, we couldn't go to the laboratory these 2 years. Well, but the digital movement library is also related to 2 PhD theses in development at the Performing Arts PhD program. This, one of that is the thesis that has been developed by Felipe Santos Rezende. He is working, so he's working about the development of the digital library of movements with these objectives. No, not yet.
I'm just watching. Like...
So yes, I'm not going to read, but you can read. There are Brazilian people reading also. There is the idea of developing the digital collection of dance movements and also doing archival performance. Okay. And now it's okay. Thank you. And the other project is called ChoreoBox, hyper-choreographed objects and materialities. And it's Daniel Ayres, our PhD student, that is developing. The idea is building artistic objects consists of 3D printing sculptures engendered by the use of video and 3D dance motion capture technologies, data animation, and the design of the sculptures connecting through QR codes. No, not yet. I need to say that in the both projects, the data from Notcha A were collected when Karen would visit us at the School of Physical Education, Physiotherapy and Dance, invited by my colleague Aline Haas, that also collaborates with C-DaRE and coordinates with me the digital movement library from the Eva Show archive. And we also did some pilot study when I came here in 2019 at C-DaRE. So I really thank Karen for all this work together. Okay, next. So this project has been developed with a small budget from CAPES Foundation, Ministry of Education from Brazil, that permits to engage undergraduate and PhD students to work on the archive. I highlight here So we can see the team, we of course working by Zoom, and these two photos, they are from the moment when we launched the archive. So I highlight here the work of Pedro Rocha, visual arts undergraduate student that has been developing the website that hosts the Eva Show archive. And also I'd like to talk about Thais Coelho thesis about the Anima Dance Company. The Eva Show archive is part of the Center for Sports Memory from the School of Physical Education, Physiotherapy and Dance. The university provides access to the LUMI, the digital repertoire, and hosts the archive on their web system. So it's a free and public university. We don't pay to host the archive. We don't pay to have all the documentation on the digital repository. And just to say, the LUMI, the digital repository of Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, is one of the best of Latin America. Is very well done. Well, the Eva Show archive is part of the research project, Digital Archives in Performing Arts, Building Memories and Technological Innovation. The archive won the Açorianos Dance Award 2021 in the category Memory. The prize is given from the city of Porto Alegre, Municipal Department of Culture. Okay. So I'm finishing. Crossing borders is part of Eva Show's life. She was born in a post-war refugee camp. The family first went to Uruguay and then moved to Porto Alegre when Eva was 8 years old. In the 70s, Eva lived between Brazil, Buenos Aires in Argentina, Montevideo in Uruguay, and New York. Her life and her work reveal her commitment with a dance practice that embodies affective, ethical perspectives, committed with freedom, cultural activism, and political resistance. That is one of the reasons that made me choose to be with Eva Show since the 90s, first as dancer and then as researcher that continues to dance. My journey, both as an artist and a researcher, has been anchored in the purpose of understanding the different contexts and paradoxes within the Brazilian society and its capabilities and impossibilities to contribute to dance and to transform certain realities. So I have been building strategies to understand some dance practices developed in Brazil regarding local concepts, contexts, experiences, and traditions. And first time that I came here, I present my PhD thesis where I worked with the idea of the dancing body as an anthropophagical body, regarding many of references from the anthropophagy and the cultural movement and cultural thinking in Brazilian cultural thinking. More recently, I approached issues related to dance and decoloniality on my chapter at the book Dance Fields, Staking a Claim for Dance Studies in the 21st Century, published by people from C-DaRE. And our research group presented a paper called Brazilian Black Dancers Research, the concept of intersectionality between North and South through dance practice at Inclusion and Intersectionality Symposium, just to cite some works in English. So Sarah was there, Karen also. However, while developing the Eva Show archive, I've been trying to position this project in this complex framework, and I've been always asking, are we being colonized, trying to appropriate technologies and methodologies maybe with poor results and trying to insert the Eva Show archive in the dominant discourse about dance, body, and technology? Or are we trying to decolonize and enable a kind of cross-cultural knowledge sharing based on Evashu dance practices that has been developed in southern Brazil? I don't have the answer. Maybe this answer doesn't exist, and the question should be made every day. But we continue to argue that the elaboration of digital archives in dance must consider the contexts of globalization and the needs of products fabrication that meet the social and cultural demands of Brazil. In this sense, the development of the Evashu archive should be an example of how Brazilian dance practitioners can appropriate technologies for their own benefits, contributing to the construction of memories of the Brazilian dance and enable the cross-cultural knowledge sharing based on dance produced in southern Brazil. So just to finish, I'd like to say that while being here in these 3 months, I had the opportunity to apply to an open call to remotely take part in a 6-month creative virtual residency program based at Goldsmith University of London. I'm grateful to Rosa Cisneros that showed me the open call. We also published an article about the Evashu, it's me and Rosa, published an article about the Evashu archive at the Weave blog, and we are preparing a lab day on the Weave capacity building series. But returning to this open call, the 5 residence projects selected will be provided with a motion capture system with 2 perception neural, creative asset starters toolkits, and a creation development budget. Through workshops, training, and mentorship, the team from Goldsmith will facilitate the development of collaborative digital work on the creator's own terms using these tools. We submitted a project with the objective of documenting the work of Evashu, an anima dance company, so contemporary dance, and the work of Yara Deodoro and the Afro-Sul Dance and Music Group, so an Afro-Brazilian centric dance. The good news is that we were selected. So we assume that through documenting, we assume that through documenting Yara Deodoro and Evashu dance practices, we will be able to share embodied experiences that defy Western dance and the dominant discourses about dancing, body, and technology. Challenging the canon of dance practices that have typically engaged with digital work. We also intend with this project to increase the access to digital technologies by Brazilian dance artists, envisaging an opportunity to enhance activism and cultural expression in the digital work. Thank you very much.
We're back, I think. Thank you, Mônica. That was wonderful. Kate, are you? We can't hear you.
That was the first error. Yeah, thank you. I'm here. Thank you, Mônica. That was really, really fascinating, really interesting. So in terms of everybody who's online, please feel free to pop your video on if you want to, so that we can be with each other. Maybe for now to stay on mute unless you're asking a question, but I think that Lily and I are quite happy to try either just speaking up or putting a virtual hand up or writing something in the chat. Lily, are there any questions? This is always, it feels like the Eurovision Song Contest. Are there any questions coming from the live space?
Go, Sarah.
Shall I go?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mônica. That was fabulous. I want to hear all about the Goldsmith project. But I just wanted to pick up on your last point that I thought was so interesting, about, you know, to what extent you colonizing or decolonizing, you know, just such an interesting question. And then you talked about appropriation. And I just wondered whether or not you have a view about the subtleties, or perhaps not so subtle differences between colonizing or appropriating in this context of the Digital Dance Archives creation process.
Okay. First of all, I'm always worried about with less technological conditions, with a context not so yet ready for that. I'm always thinking about the quality of our products is one of things. But other is always, I always ask myself, oh, I'm going there to C-DaRE to learn about first Siobhan Davis archive and the projects from C-DaRE are really examples for us. But always when I arrive home, I saw all the differences of structure and money and etc. So I'm always asking, should I be doing that or should I be doing other things? But finally, we have in Brazil people working with dance and technology. We have Ivani Santana, for example, that at least almost 30 years she has been developing a work with telematic dance. We have a mock-up lab at Federal University of Bahia, Salvador. Isabel Valverde has been there. We did some exchanges. We are in the world. Everything is happening in the same time. I like a lot. There is a Latino American thinker, Garcia Canclini. He talks about multiple heterogeneity, heterogeneity and multitemporality. That means we have in Brazil, we still have indigenous people, First Nations, that has almost no contact with white civilization. It's one of the last from the Latin America, from the Americas. So we still have that, and this is a richness. We are now learning about how to cope and how to learn with these people, these First Nations that has so many to teach us about environment, about ethical. We have all this struggle of Black population in Brazil also, and we are really being confronted in the good sense at university by our students with this necessity of highlighting all the different cultures in Brazil, and then also the need of I forgot the word, but it's okay. So we had all this context pressing us to see and do things in a different way. So okay, so this is all my questions about being still colonized. Of course, I developed all thinking about anthropophagy and this as an alternative to hybridity. Yes, the anthropophagy says I'm going to eat, because it's a metaphor of cannibalism. I'm going to eat what it's not mine. I'm going to absorb the power of this culture, and I'm going to give birth to another culture. But this is not enough now in Brazil anymore also, because we have to go beyond the metaphors, and you have to do a movement of reparation, was the word, reparation to Black people, the reparation of indigenous and First Nations. So I'm really in the middle of this, we are really in the middle of this different contexts, but we also are in the world, in this digital world, in this digital environment. And it's important, I think, with this new project, finally, because yes, Eva Schuh is someone that came from a diaspora also, but has been developing his work in the frame of contemporary dance. So for now, it's also important that we have this opportunity to open for another ways, another dance expressions from. But it's also important not to colonize their practices. So in this new project, the idea is also, it's a question of how we also develop methodologies using these tools, but to methodologies that came from these poetics. So it's a real, I don't have answers really, I have much more questions than answers.
No, I just think it's really fascinating for all the reasons you're talking about. You know, those sort of tensions, I think, are at play all the time, aren't they? I mean, even in the notion of archiving, you know, it's not a neutral, it's never a neutral process. But no, it's just really interesting. Anyway, let's ask questions.
Questions on the sheet? Okay, any?
Nothing on the chat yet. If anybody wants to comment, and it doesn't have to be a question, it can be even a hello, it can be anything coming in from online, but there's nothing, some lovely smiling faces, but no questions or comments.
We've got something else in the room, so we'll.
Great.
Thank you so much. It's really given me a lot to think about, but I was thinking about that. I've just been reading a little bit of Bernard Stiegler's idea of the kind of exteriorization of humans through things like artifacts and he talks about the industrialization of memory, and I'm really interested in maybe the question is. What is it? What are questions in dance that are not answered by digital technologies? So what are things in dance that are not answered by digital technologies? Meaning, it seems to be in a way that whatever the question in dance, the answer is some kind of digital technology. And I wonder, are there instances that don't make that kind of sense to you?
I agree. I don't think all the answers are on the technology. I took many times to go to technology. It's really new, and my desire to come to technology was this desire coming from the dancing body. For me, technology just helps if it helps to come back to the body. But it's my view very. I don't want to disappear in the virtual environment. So all the actions that. We started with this first project that I presenting, giving flash to the memory. The idea was first dance. We are going to dance. We want to make dance history. We want to promote dance memory. We are going to dance this history. We are going to dance this memory. So this first project. And in this project was the idea also of gathering material to documenting the Eva Schuh and the history. And we would like to do first a book and an exhibition. But then we just saw the possibilities of the digital archive. But I consider myself, I think it's almost ironic that now I am on technology because it's not my practice. But this started to happen, and I think it's important, and I have many limits about that. And I am really thankful to the students, to PhD students, to the undergraduate students, because they are living in this world. So what I think about that, I think that we we cannot lost this impulse to deal with technology and avatar and dancing avatars and all the things that emerged from that. But me, Mônica, personally, I always want to come back to the dancing body. I want to come back to the contact between people, to the dance classes. So now we couldn't do that, but in 1918 we did an action to launch the archive project, and there is the photo, and we did an event, and Eva Shu gave an open class to there was 100 people on the room. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to see 20 people on a scene. So for me, technology just makes sense when it permits to come back to the body.
Yeah, I guess my question is, is it a one-way street? Like the gravitational pull, the pull of gravity towards technology is so strong, and if the dance and the body is being pulled towards this archive, is the body coming back out of it? Is it a two-way street, or is it just one direction?
I would believe that there are two ways. For my vision, there are two ways, but as I consider myself even a primitive person to talk about that. But it's because it's really fascinating at the same. I just did 2 sessions of Notcha, for example. And it's fascinating also when you see yourself in that avatar and you recognize yourself there. I just show it to some people, and I didn't say that's me. And I have a student, she looked, oh, it's you. So she recognized my embodied being in the. So it's really fascinating. It's fascinating. It's something that can really capture us really quickly. But I believe in the going and coming back always. I am old and primitive person, anthropophagic, but it's, I don't know.
Thank you.
I was just going to share, there's been quite a few comments. So I'm just going
to... There's a few comments coming up in the chat. Firstly, some nice affirmations from lovely Susie and Philippe about congratulating you, Mônica, on your presentation. There's some comment, Philippe misses you, but they can have you back soon, but you're ours at the moment. Also quite a few comments, not to summarize. So Ruth, I don't know if you want to come in with this, but there's some interesting comments that seem all to be linked to this relationship between technology and the body, or technology and dance as a conversation. Ruth, I'm going to put you slightly on the spot. You've made a comment around technology as ritual, which immediately feels really interesting particularly in terms of Monica's statement that technology is not her natural home. And I think actually I'm imagining, and for me it's the same, I wonder where there must be something very helpful about kind of having a somewhat ritualistic approach to technology that makes it seem more familiar or more. I don't know, Ruth, if you want to add anything. If I'm putting you on the spot, you can type something in the chat.
No, it's fine. I thank you so much, Mônica. It's great to see you. I'm sorry I can't be there, but here virtually. Yeah, I know the conversation a little bit, perhaps a few moments back was about this relationship, and I've always thought of technology as a partner and as a dialogue and as a conversation. So it's definitely back and forth, to and fro, and the notion of the ritual, I suppose it's become that, and it depends on, in many ways. Sometimes Joan Skinner talks about kinesthetic rituals before classes, and they're a way of attuning yourself before the class. And she didn't mean them in any kind of spiritual sense necessarily. She meant just everyday things that you could do. So Kate, what you're saying about the everyday is really what I meant by that. It's an everyday.
Thanks, Ruth. Thank you. Monica, do you I mean, you perhaps feel like you've spoken to that already, that if there are no other comments in the space or online, does that speak to you, the idea of the ritualistic?
Yes, a lot. I've been learning a lot with Ruth. She's an inspiration for us. I could visit the studio the other time when I came here. And yes, the idea of ritual, I think it's very important in dance and in our work. It's just, I would like to be there. For me, it's still a lot of interrogations, but I think it's real important. I think we build rituals, and we build this kind of intimacy also in our work. So for me, it's really easy to think about that, dancing in a dance in this world. But I think, yes, we will be able to build that. I hope, always with maybe a critical view of that also. Who is being empowered by technology? I think this is our question also. So this opportunity of having mock-up, I don't know if it's going to make sense. Maybe Lindsay can help. There is a song in Brazil that say something to be called of mine. So now I'm really happy with the project that we have two suites to call of us for hours. It's really, so now you can go on the digital library of movements, but also I'm thinking about, okay, and when this project with Eva Schuh and Yara Deodoro closes, to whom we are going to offer this technology? I think we have a lot of responsibility thinking about that. To whom, to do what? And I hope people come. I'm thinking for next year to make a modest open call for groups from Rio Grande do Sul, for the southern Brazil, and to see also which kind of proposition they have. I always think about young artists, how they will work with all these possibilities.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, there are questions.
oh, well, I've gone before.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica, also for bringing up the anthropophagic body again, which is a concept I came across through another dancer, Wagner Schwarz.
Yes.
You know him from Minas Gerais, I'm not sure.
Yes, I know him.
So, and also I remember a song that's a while ago, which was called, I can't even get the whole title because it was called like Wagner Miranda, Carmen Miranda, Pina, Le Roi, Transogetto, where he's sort of devouring the whole thing and collecting it in his body. What I'm wondering now with what you did here, and this question of decolonization, I'm wondering whether this digital archive and then also the next project you're doing, whether this is perhaps, not sure yet, please correct me if I'm wrong, whether it could be also a kind of sort of devouring this kind of technique that's already there and using it and filling it with your own content and making something else. And whether this kind of digital archive then is also about dissemination, making certain dance forms much more visible, because as we know it, I mean, it's online, it's in the internet. So it's way easier to disseminate it as long as it lasts, other than having an archive in Rio Grande do Sul, where perhaps, especially with the pandemic, hardly anyone would come from the so-called Western world. But here you are, and you're using this technique and sort of revolving it around and getting it out in the open. And then I'm wondering whether this is also a way to shift certain canons, to sort of enrich it with much more what is out there and what otherwise, perhaps still being very Eurocentric, would go missing. So I'm wondering whether this would perhaps also feed into, at least in widening the canon and opening it up, and whether this use of technology would be a way of appropriating and sort of shifting that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. You talk, yes, I think really, you talked much better than me. Thank you. But yes, this is the idea. Yes. The first one is that giving visibility and spread that. And also, it was important for me having the version in English, for example, because I pay it from my money, the English version, because it's important, always in this tension. Oh, but why do, for example, maybe we should have in Spanish, but Portuguese and Spanish are so close, so yes, being English, the lingua franca, it's being in the world. So it was one of the decisions that we made. Yes, I want to have also the text and the references in English. So this is one of the things. Other thing is that as I'm not a choreographer, as artist, I'm a dancer. I don't want to be a choreographer. I like to work in collaboration. I like to work with someone, with the vision of someone. So of course, working with Eva, the dancers are co-creators. We collaborate, everything that you already know. So, but it's the same for my relation with technology in this moment. My idea with mocap is much more near of documenting of the technique, because Eva Schuh developed her own technique. It's contemporary, it's related with European reference, Mary Wigman, with Rania Holm and Alvin Nicolai, her first background, but also with all Brazilian culture, with capoeira, now with hip hop. So she has a view of poetic, and so it's documented that. And now with Yara Deodoro, we radicalize, if I can say, really this idea, because really there are other references. It's another community with less international visibility. So yes, this is the idea, and this is anthropophagical in the sense of appropriating and changing, and because also the all the progress of the global north global, of the central, of the capitalism is made because of we know of the African and Asiatic, all these relations of power. So it's our, I know I am always a little bit, but it's our, the technology is our, the money is our. Is that also the idea that I've been learning with my students, with the minorities? This is our, so yes, it's our, and we are going to, if you are going to imitate, we learn by imitation also. We learn dance imitating, we learn behaviors imitating. So if we're going to start imitating and mimicking and transforming that, we're going to do that, to do another thing.
I just wondered whether,
just to say, people online are finding it harder to hear people at the back of the room, so you might want to project. Shout.
Or walk up to the microphone.
Or come up, take your place at the front. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Carry on.
Thank you, Mônica. That was really great to see the archive as it is. And I was just wondering, as we have Eva as well online, if you could talk a little bit about your process and share some of Eva's thoughts about the archive as well, maybe, so that, you know, having her work archived in this way, it would be great to.
You want to hear Eva?
Well, you and Eva, so how you worked together and what you
Eva.
Yes, I'm here. Good morning for us. Well, thank you, Mônica, for all your work. It's very humbling to be the subject of your work. I think, first of all, the way I work, it was initially thought as colonized, because I studied in the States and Europe, but I feel more Brazilian than European, even if I was born in Europe. And I always tried to bring up in my work as much as I could of the Brazilian way of thinking and moving. I had to change all the technique that I learned abroad to fulfill what Brazil needed. When I came back to Brazil, it was almost 10 years of work at the university to really make it in a way that Brazilian people could not only perform all these with the different bodies and different backgrounds and thinkings, but they could add everything they could bring from their own culture. So I work with this approach to everybody is a choreographer in the world. They don't have to imitate what I do or how I dance, but they bring their own approaches to my technique and my poetics more than everything. I think this archive is the memory of what I did in this almost 60 years of work in dance. It's important not to bring my name or my work, but to give the possibility to people see what I did and begin there. You don't have to always be the beginner of something to invent again the wheel, but beginning on what I have accomplished, you can go further and you can go to different places in poetics and in techniques. I see that most of the dance teaching in contemporary dance today is everyone's style, more than the teaching of how to build a body that has any possibility, that has a luggage that can bring it to the stage or to the poetics that they do. So that's my first approach, and I think the archive is perfect for that. New generations can begin there and go to other places that I never could reach because I'm really old now, and technology for me, it's really new. I try to be in this world, but it's not so easy. I've seen the television begin. So I think people like Mônica and Susie and those students of the university are doing for me a magical place where other people, other generations could go to drink a little bit of what I accomplished in life. I think is that. congratulations to Mônica.
So I just would like to say first, Eva says technology is new for her, but when pandemic started in the second week that the Brazilian lockdown, Eva started to teach classes online. First, we tried WhatsApp, and she went to Zoom, and we did the classes on Zoom during Lindsay also was there. So we meet each other by Zoom. We did class each one. So it was really quickly. And 2020, last year, she directed with Eduardo Severino an artistic residence, all also online, each one with more than 20 dancers, 20 artists, 5 companies. It was a big project. So she's a very intelligent woman and she learns really quickly. So this I have to say. I just would like to say 2 things. First of all, Brazil is a huge country. So I always avoid to say Brazilian because there are many Brazils, many. So that's the reason I always localize. I always locate in the southern Brazil. In the southern Brazil, we are a privileged maybe place, but not too much. But we are not the center. In the center, economic center is São Paulo, of course, is the. So we are in this relation also peripheral, anything, in this relation regarding Brazil. But there are, just to say that there are many Brazilian ways of doing and of Brazilian ways of dancing. So this is one thing. And the other thing is that this kind of transnational practices, that cross dance, for example. So we all know, if I came here and I go to I've been doing classes at Independent Dance now at Siobhan Davis, and I understand, even if my English sometimes is not so good, there is this transnational dance practice that cross our behaviors and our practices. So this is also, we have to, I think we have to consider, Lindsay, the many layers of the construction of this all this context. So this is another thing. And also talking about Eva, it's really, Eva is someone that she's very generous about her work. She's not worried about her signature, because she knows that is her. We discussed it a lot with that, and this process, it's from the dancer, it's from the choreographer, but she is really cool, I can say. So she just let we do with her material almost what we want, but we think that we are doing what we want, but we are doing something that she also wants. So it's a kind of horizontal process. So it's easy for us to, of course, I'm talking about, for me, it's easy because I've been working with her for 30 years. So it's really something that is easy for me, but she is someone that really gives, that shares power, let's say, with the dancers. And also it's a question of the conditions. We don't have salary as dancers. We have also difficult conditions that I know here the dancers and the dance companies also have. So we have to do production, you have to do diffusion, we have to do so many things that, of course, we start for sharing the power in the work. So the same behavior we have, in the same freedom we have to do the archive. We ask many things, we try to work with Eva, but never did you have to do the archive. It's our ideas that we share with our students, with our team. So I feel really free and happy to deal with her work with a lot of responsibility, of course.
Okay, do we have any more questions or comments?
Yeah, I was thinking, may I?
Yes, Lindsay, go ahead.
It's a kind of provoking, and thank you, Mônica. And I think, well, we are friends, you are my teacher, and but it's now listening to you and to the project, I pictured it completely different now, because I saw the beginning, like to give flash to the memory, like to bring to the stage old works. And now I understood that this is a project that doesn't stop to spread and to melt in itself. Does it make sense? So in this sense, I love the idea of crossing borders, integrating geographies that is intrinsically related to Eva's work. And that would be my question in a certain sense, as a comment. To think that in the same sense of your question about colonizing or being decolonized or decolonizing, are we trying to hold, like in a certain way, to apprehend the work or to free it? Can you understand what I mean? Because I was like thinking about those very famous around here, the wax museums, you know. So, but we don't want an ever show wax statue, but perhaps we will be able to have an holograph of Eva delivering her classes forever. I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of, but because this is the thing about technology and movement and keeping, I mean, yeah, bringing life to memory. So I don't know, just sharing these thoughts because in a certain sense, it is still keep crossing borders, you know? Yeah. Physically and also geographically. The project is in Portuguese at Lund, but it's here and it's in English right now, and it's so, I don't know, it's fascinating. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Liz. I was afraid that my friend is going to be to do a difficult question. No. Yes, and I thank you because I just thought about something. For me, the archives has a lot of limits. I would like to do something bigger and bigger and bigger, but the most bigger that I could do and the most complete that I could do, for me, it is going to be always smaller than the work, than ever show poetics, ever show. So for it always has more limits than what we can do dancing. These archives that I'm doing, not the dancing technology. This is another thing. So for me, this is really, I just realized that when you talk. So for me, it's always the same question. It's smaller than her work and her practice and our practice, but it's important. It's important by the several reasons that we've been talking. And it's also, we are really interested in the beginning about documenting the choreographies. And we are still interested about that. But more and more, I see how important it is to document the technique, the procedure, because as ever, the works, they open, of course, possibilities, but what really opens possibilities in the Eva's works is her teaching, is her process. It's very interesting. We have 14 lectures and professors at a dance undergraduate course at university. At least half of them were students of Eva. So Eva has she trained a lot of people that are artists that are around the world. So her process is more important than the works, than the choreographies. I just realized it now. I've been realizing that. So in the beginning, I would like to have many choreographies, and now I'm much more interested about having the process there.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to jump in. You wanted to ask a question.
Go.
That it just sparked something in me when you said that in terms of legacy as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, might there be space on the archive for those people who are now doing different things? Did Siobhan Davies, did Replay have that? I can't remember. Was there something like from the dancers that had worked with the company?
It wasn't. I mean, the dancers featured heavily in it in terms of what their contributions were. But.
Yeah, I just thought of that.
Yeah.
Legacy, in terms of legacy.
Yeah. No. For example, sometimes the most interesting is not what we can see on the archive, but what is. We did. We, for example, have group of WhatsApp with dancers with the different generations of Anima Dance Company. So they start to share in the when we did the launching of the archive, we did a live transmitted at the YouTube, it's there, and we gather almost I don't 30 people, and everyone in the end, everyone would like to talk. So this is very interesting. We have dancers that are 21, 22 years now, and we have almost 60 years now, not yet, but we are still dancing, we are still collaborating with Eva. Sarah saw us doing the dancing class.
I nearly joined in, dodged that bullet.
So yes, so the archives is just that idea finally that how do you say the iceberg? What we see just a small, because the work underneath that is the most interesting, and you never know how we are going to share all the things with people, but maybe it has limits.
Well, maybe I can sort of follow up with a question just about that, because although it's launched, it's still very new, isn't it? And one of the, I suppose this is something from my experience of working in this area, is the complete unknown about what's going to happen when you let something alive in the world in a way, in completely different context from which the work was originally made. You know, the space is incredibly different, and in a way, there's that sort of unknown of what is going to happen to it, because it's uncontrollable. You know, if it's out there available, you know, what are people going to do with this? And I suppose if there's a question, it's just, do you have any anxiety about that, or any kind of hopes for that once it's alive in its own body, that it becomes something that you may not have expected, intended, wished, or hoped for?
Honestly, not yet, because I'm so worried about all the things that we have to do. It's still too small. So I'm really worried about all the development, all the things that we want to do. But yes, sometimes I have fear that this just stay there, you know, if you don't continue to promote and to I think I have more fear from that just okay, it's done now, it's there, then what people, because in this sense I try to follow Eva, it's there, and do whatever you want with that.
So it'll be interesting to see if that actually happens. You know, if somebody does a reconstruction, or you know, they write the book. You know, I mean, there are all sorts of possibilities of this that may be unexpected, let's say. But if it has a life beyond, then you would welcome that.
Anyway, we are happy because when we launched the archive, and you worked to diffuse that in our community, it was very well welcomed. We won the prize. It's an important prize in the city, but lots of people participated, in social medias in Brazil is something really strong. So we have Instagram and etc. But we have lots of more than I was expecting, because there are also, it's a project developed at university. So all these tensions also regarding university and artistic community. But I was really happy that it was welcome more than, I don't know. So I had a good, it spread well in this beginning. It's new, but many people were congratulating and sharing and etc. I think,
yeah, there was a couple more sort of nice comments. I don't know if you can read them.
Just some lovely comment from Ruth about Mônica, about your thinking around the magical place for students to drink in a little bit of what has been accomplished. I think you've spoken to that actually in subsequent questions, and then a thank you. If anyone else has any last comments to pop in the chat, or questions, we've got a few minutes if people want to do that, or if there's anything else in the space. I can see you looking, Lily, see you scanning the room.
Everyone's absorbing, I think, now.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to eke it out.
No,
4 o'clock. We can
So
close up a little bit.
Your Goldsmiths project, does that mean you're staying in the UK longer?
Sorry?
Do you stay here longer in the UK because of the Goldsmiths project?
No, because the Goldsmith project is to be done in Brazil.
Ah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, the idea is to do everything online. Yeah, remotely. I just have to take my suite.
Perception neuron kits. You've got to fit them in your suitcase.
Okay.
So Mônica was successful in funding application, the mocap stream core, and with it you get 2 perception neuron kits.
Okay,
that's free
to keep.
To keep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a fair amount.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna do that annoying thing of a comment right near the end. But one of the things that's kind of percolating for me, Mônica, as you and others are talking, and it's a thank you really. I really value the way that you and others in the chat and in this session have talked about the fluidity of the relationship between the body and technology, which really resists, I think, this tradition or historic tradition of using the body and using dance to understand or show off technology. And I think your resistance of that is really, I really appreciate that your acknowledgement of people who know me will know I talk about mess a lot, but acknowledging the conversation, the dialogue, and the sometimes mess of where the body meets technology feels really valuable for me. So that was just a thank you, really, to just plonk that right at the end. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, should we
As the camera
bring it to a close?
You all stand in front of the camera.
Yeah, we've been trying to get.
Yeah, come and say so we can see you. We can only see Mônica and Lily.
Everyone come up here.
Are you going to say bye?
Everyone can wait. The camera's.
Where's the camera?
Here.
You all have to come a bit
Hey.
There we go. Yay! Look, you can see everyone.
Blocking you in.
Ah.
You have to look there and don't see.
It was a block in Lily.
There you go.
Where is the camera? Thanks.
Ah,
It keeps jumping.
You cannot see people.